Welcome back to my second devlog for Joust. Today I wanted to go over one of the most important iterations and refinements I've worked on for the game, responsive controls. I'm going to be breaking this video down into two parts. The next video will be the actual tutorial, while this one will be just the devlog as usual. As I explained in the first video, the gameplay for Joust uses swipe for input. Since the timing is a huge factor in the gameplay, having fast and responsive controls is an absolute must for the player. If the player feels like the most noticeable amount of lag, they're going to get frustrated and feel cheated and blame the game for dying in combat. If the controls are tight and responsive, it's a lot easier for the player to believe that they're at fault for when they miss the correct timing and take damage. So I'm not going to get any deeper into the theory of responsive controls, as I'm sure there's plenty of resources out there about this sort of topic. So for several months of the game's development, I originally started off with slow and irresponsive controls for the swipe inputs. The system I used for the swipe would take where the player's thumb started and then track where they released their thumb. The Unity system takes the coordinates on the X and Y scale, so the code makes a calculation on base where the player started and then they finished, finding a higher X or Y value. This would in turn create a definitive up, down, left or right direction. The issue with this is that by the time the player stops swiping their thumb across the screen, it can start to feel too late. This is also mainly to do with the variable amount of time you can swipe your thumb across the screen. From the time the player starts swiping to when the animation for the attack starts playing, and when the player's character begins detecting enemies as within range, it can start to feel too late. This issue became apparent as I started playtesting it with all of my friends. Most people were not able to get very far at all, if at all defeat any enemies. Secondly, this led to one of my friends discovering an exploit with the game. They could easily wind up their attack by holding the swipe down long enough until they wanted to release it at the correct time. This kind of ruined what I thought was the original rhythm and feel that I had for the game. This exploit was really what made me rethink the whole system, and if I could make it better, as I was mostly complacent and really just thought it was good enough. Thinking it was good enough made me also think that maybe the other players should just get better at the game, as I was good at it myself, considering that I made it, and they should just practice more. I then researched what other games were out there and how they handled their control inputs. In search of endless runners, I downloaded games like Temple Run and Bendy Run. This then led me to discover that most games were reading people's swipe inputs before they released their thumb to activate their animations. This made me reconsider what I needed to do, and I should definitely go down this route. After spending several hours doing research on how I can actually improve this, I eventually recreated the whole input system the way I wanted. So I searched hundreds of forums and looked at hundreds of YouTube videos. There was nothing actually that specific to what I wanted to do. I think I just accidentally created this by just trial and error and trying everything I could. So it's now what it does, it starts off by taking the touch input, it then is recording live what the player's movement is doing on the X and Y scale. Once it reaches a certain value, it figures out which scale it was on. It then executes the appropriate method assigned to the player. That's all I have for today, and I hope this inspires others to have a second look at the responsiveness and the input of the controls, how it feels, and just go back over their projects and other aspects that you may have become complacent with, and focus on that little voice in the back of your head that's telling you maybe you should do that, or that you've been putting something off. So once again, if you want to find out about how I did all this, look out for the next video, which will be an in-depth tutorial about the code, and I'll see you later.